Well, I'd like to welcome you very much to our Choose Certainty and Calm workshop. My name's Jen Ramsey, and I'm here to talk with you about how we can make the most of these very unprecedented times in terms of making the most of lockdown. I want to thank you very much for joining me and taking the time out of your day or evening to be here. My aim is to really help focus us on what we can do to really make the most of this time and really get the best that we can out of it, given that it's very unprecedented. In terms of my background, I'm a mindset, empowerment and performance coach. So I help people to get the results that they want to get, to feel more happy and confident and worthy within themselves, and to deal with any self-doubt or imposter syndrome that might be stopping them from getting you where you'd like to go. So that's my background. So in terms of tonight, there is quite a bit that I want to be sharing with you. But I think the thing is that I wanted to speak to you more than anything was the fact that I'm going to be sharing lots of practical things with you. Some things that you may have heard before, but perhaps some things in a new context. But one of the things more than ever that I feel very strongly about in terms of this time that we're in, it is unprecedented, and I know it's very tough for people. I'm working with clients and working with people who have lost jobs and are homeschooling children who feel very overwhelmed and whose businesses have sort of vanished overnight. So I understand it's really tough for many people. But I guess what I also see is that there's an opportunity for us here to really step into who we are and step into really understanding who we are and getting to understand who we truly are beyond the fear. And it's about really redefining our relationship with ourselves, with our community, with our loved ones, with the planet. That's the planet's having a big change. But also, most importantly, to really be redefining our relationship with fear and to understand that we can, if we approach this in a different way, if we come at it from a different perspective, if we choose a different story, we're going to have a different experience of it. And you might be wondering, well, how do I know that to be true? And it's because I've had my own, in years gone by, I've had my own experience with dealing with quite high functioning but quite difficult anxiety. And what I learned from that journey, I'm going to be sharing with you quite a few of those tools tonight, but what I learned from that journey was that this fear is something that does not need to overwhelm us. It is actually something that can be managed and something that can be dealt with and looked at from a different perspective so that we can actually live a much fuller, a much more confident, a much freer life. And that's really my my philosophy and my approach to life is that let's see how we can live the most unlimited and most free version of ourselves. And to do that, it is really about changing the story that we tell ourselves and changing the perspective that we put on things. And for a long time, I didn't know that was possible. But then over a series of experiences and learnings, I managed to come to that realization, and I now live that every day. I know that I do have the power to choose my perspective, and I do have the power to create a new story around that. And I have lost jobs, I have lost business, I understand what that's about. I know that it's extremely tough in that moment. But what has come through to me very, very clearly is the fact that we can choose another perspective, we can create a new story. So that's really what I wanted to share with you tonight, that this is possible. So I'm going to be sharing with you a range of things, and really because I understand that probably you're here because you want to make the most of this time, but you might be feeling overwhelmed or uncertain. You might be dealing with having to lead and support your family. You might have older parents who could be in danger. You might be homeschooling children. We're all experiencing this in different ways, and everyone's affected. And I don't think there's anyone that I've ever spoken to who is not affected by this, but it's how we come to deal with it. And I think why we're here is because it's a chance for us to remember our own inner resilience and our own inner strength, and perhaps in some ways to meet ourselves for the very first time. And that's what I have been really working on during this time, is to consolidate those things that I know about myself, but to go to an even deeper level understanding of how and why how I can manage my fear, what fear is there to teach me and what the fear is there to show me, and how I can move on from that. So that's really why we're here. And for me, and I'm not sure about you, but I feel like it's almost like we're in this pause. I hear people call it using different terms, but it's almost, for me, it's almost like there's a cosmic red light that's saying stop. You know, we've been thrown out of our normal routines. We can't see the people we normally see. We can't go to work the way we normally go to work. We can't travel the way we would normally travel. And for some of us, we're in extreme lockdown scenarios, others aren't. But we're all in this space of waiting. And I guess the question for me here is this is a chance for us to really, as I said, to redefine ourselves and to think about, you know, is the universe really saying to us, you know, hey, what do you really want right now? And this, when I talk about making the most of lockdown, it's about dealing with the fears and about managing that and getting into a supportive daily routine so that we can really answer this question of, hey, what do we really, really want? So that's what I'll be aiming to cover today. And there are really two parts to this workshop. The first step is really 5 steps to make the most of lockdown. And here I'll be talking about creating a positive daily routine that will give you some energy, peace and calm. I'll also be talking about how to deal with cabin fever and loneliness. So people living on their own are going to be experiencing this in a very different way. How to manage your sleep, and so you can feel rested and more energetic every day as well. And then I'm going to then spend quite a bit of time talking about how to keep our vibe high and how to manage these fears so that we can really step into a place of getting the most out of this time. And I'm going to be giving you a couple of very proven tools that work very, very well to reduce that anxiety and to create some calm within minutes. And how to feel more certain and calm inside the uncertainty. And I'm not sure about you also, how to feel calm and aligned when other people around you are not coping. And I've had an experience of that in the last week, and it really was important for me to stay aligned. Initially, I had a friend approach me who had gone through a very difficult emotional time in her personal life, and momentarily I went into that and I was thinking, no, I need to come back out. I need to be more aligned and calm around this. And then how to manage change that we're going to face calmly and with strength and grace. So that's really what I'm focused on covering today. So I will, as I said, be breaking for questions, and I'd love to make sure that I answer all of your questions as we go through. So in terms of these 5 steps to make the most of lockdown, what is it that we can do? The first one is to create a very supportive daily routine. And I guess probably what I'd like to say at the outset is that for us to get the most out of lockdown, we need to be managing and dealing with our fears and anxieties and any overwhelm. And I'll be talking about that in the second part of this workshop. But for me, the logical flow felt, well, let's talk about our daily routine first. So as humans, we do love a great routine. We're even at times in my life, I thought, I find routine a bit boring. But at times like this, when things are really uncertain, this is a really good time to look at what our routine is. And I'm going to be sharing with you some slightly different approaches to your daily routine. And again, some things you may be doing already, but there may be perhaps a few little nuances that you might find that might be quite useful. But in this time, I've also found in times of stress, I can let things go. I can let my self-care go. I can not do the things that I know that really support me. So that's why I wanted to share with you that there's a lot of value in having a supportive routine. And to help you with that, I've created a little daily planner. And this is where you'll see things, there are a few different things on this planner. I'll be coming back to this in this next segment. And at the end of the workshop, I'll be sending you a copy of this, and you can print off as many of these as you like and use them in your daily life. But you'll see here, there's some different things. There's a schedule on the right-hand side, but there's a couple of things there where I'm talking about today my frequency is, and today I'm grateful for. And I'll just be explaining to you how we can use those a little bit later on. There's also, you'll see the 4 grey boxes there where I talk about grounding, spiritual practice, exercise and food, connection and community, and also inspired creativity and curiosity. So those 4 boxes are things that are a little bit different. So I'm going to dive into what that's all about now. So one of the things that I have learned on my journey with managing fear has been the absolutely central importance of having a grounding practice in the mornings, early in the morning before anything else has happened in the day. This is a time when I set my intentions, when I get clear, but when I sort of come home and come back to myself. And hopefully you have some sort of practice in this space, and it's up to you in terms of what works for you. And if it's a spiritual practice for you, that's wonderful. If it's not, just perhaps it's a walk in nature. I've got a girlfriend of mine, she gets up at 5 every morning and she goes for a walk with her smartphone, and she listens to great podcasts to help get her in the right zone for the day. So it's whatever really works for you. But and the other thing here I'd say is it doesn't have to be a long period of time. I've really worked on having a routine that works for me, that fits in with the rest of my day. So my core sort of spiritual grounding practice is about 20 minutes. I'm not saying you have to sit here for an hour and meditate, because a lot of us, being practical, a lot of us don't have that time. If you do, fantastic. But I try and be realistic with this as well. But whatever works for you, it'll be what resonates with you. And I know for me, over the last few years, I've come to work out what is really vital and what works best for me in the mornings. The second thing is, of course, exercise and food. Now, exercise can be a bit harder for people who might be used to going to the gym, going out for a run, going out to do team sports or more physical exercise. When we're at home, it's a little bit more difficult. But again, I have found in recent weeks, as the temperature's risen from a fear perspective, and I've had, my father has been quite unwell, and he's in lockdown and aged care, so I can't physically go and see him. I really could see the importance of me maintaining a good physical exercise routine. And for me, that's yoga, but it's instead of just doing the more gentle yoga, the yin yoga, it's really getting back into doing power yoga, where I'm doing really intentional deep breathing that really oxygenates my body and really helps me really get more calm and centered. And I can feel the immediate effects after I've done an hour of power yoga. I can feel the difference in my body. So again, whatever that is for you, yoga is an easier one to do because we don't need a lot of space. Another friend of mine, she's got a boxing gloves and a bag, and she does that. But there's Pilates, there's a lot of great things online. There's another practice that I will share with you that is part of my morning routine, and it's a Kundalini yoga breath sequence that's around lymphatic drainage. And it's great because it helps drain the lymph system, which really needs to keep working. But the reason that I do it is because it really helps clear my brain, because it's something you don't need. It takes about 6 or 7 minutes to do, and it's something that it's the heavy oxygenation. You're breathing in quite deeply and you're breathing out quite deeply. So it's a very in-out breath, and it works really, really powerfully. So I'll share that with you after this workshop, a link to that. And food, of course, I think we've all got a bit more time to spend on food, given that we're at home and so on. So, but it's what food we're putting in, and as unprocessed and as whole food as possible is the best. And I'm pretty good with what I eat, but I found myself early on in the piece thinking, I might just have a little bit more chocolate or whatever. And I realized that for me, that's not very supportive. If I have too much of that, I can get headaches. And, in the effort of trying to treat myself, it actually didn't go so well for me. So keeping as much to your exercise and food regime that you can. And also, I know if you've got kids at home, that they can be very hungry and see food as a really key part of the day. So keeping that interesting as well for them, as well as healthy, is always a bit of a challenge. The next thing is connection and community. And I'm talking about all of these things because we're going to go back to our daily planner, and we're going to think every day, we're going to think about what are we doing in each of these boxes. We're having a little activity in there. So connection and community, how are you keeping connected? And my experience has been that having actually having a phone conversation or doing online Zoom calls like this is much more powerful and much more beneficial to me than sending text messages. Text messages are great, you can check in on people, but this real connection is really important. And particularly if you're living at home, if you're on your own, this connection piece is really important. So it's about intentionally connecting with people every day. And having those fine conversations. And even if you think, I don't have time, if you can try and make a little bit of time for that connection, it can really help. I've got a very dear friend who's elderly here in Australia. People over 70 in Australia aren't allowed to go out at all at the moment, so I'm really mindful of her. She's living at home on her own, but I know she's got a beautiful family who call her every day, and then I also make sure I make a call. So it's about getting that connection going on, and doing something in our community. If we've got, if there are people we could reach out to, people who are older or people who live on their own, and just checking in with those people, maybe making a regular phone date or Zoom date. That's something that I know really, really is helpful to people. And I've got a set of girlfriends that I'm connecting with in that way. Every week or so we're doing a Zoom call just so we can keep connected and keep that community going. And you can have a glass of wine with that as well, or a cup of tea. That always works. And then finally, the other thing that helps with really keeping our vibe high and dealing with the fear is to block some time out to do something creative, or if you're not feeling very creative, something that you might feel curious about. So this curiosity piece is really, really valuable, and it's really important to, this is where we can really get a true escape from what's going on. And whatever that creativity is for you, and a lot of people say to me, well, I'm not very creative, I don't feel I'm creative. You can be very creative. But your creativity might not be the traditional doing art or singing or music or whatever, but it could be creativity in terms of cooking, or creativity even in terms of even organising a cupboard. I see beautiful creativity when people do that. But if you're feeling, I'm not creative, maybe there's something you're curious about. And one of my nephews he works in the tech industry, and because he's had more time, he came home from overseas right when all of this started, so he had to have a couple of weeks in self-isolation. So he has done a computer science class from Harvard online. So he was curious about that, went and found it, and so he's done that. So again, it's whatever floats your boat in terms of curiosity, but it's about building something in every day, and this is what helps keep our vibe high and keeps managing the overwhelm. So that's why we've got on our planner these 4 little boxes here. So the idea would be that you could use this planner maybe get up in the morning, part of your morning routine is to take a look at this, work out the things you might have, things that you need to do during the day for work or for your family or your business, but to really block out some times in the planner where you are taking this, the time for the grounding or spiritual practice, taking the time to look at what little piece of exercise you could put in, taking the time for a bit of connection, and taking the time for this inspiration and the curiosity. At this point, if you're feeling overwhelmed, you might not feel very inspired in that space, but hopefully by the end of this workshop where I will have shared with you how to deal with some of those fears, you might be able to come back to this. But that's the purpose of this planner. The other couple of things that we've got on this planner, today I'm grateful for, and today my frequency is. So let me explain those a little bit more now. So gratitude is something that is really, really vital. It's something that I know that on my journey with dealing with overwhelm and anxiety has been really powerful. It's helped me shift that story, shift that perspective in terms of what's going on. The other thing that we also know about gratitude is that it is really very powerful at this time, because what I know to be true is that if I'm feeling gratitude, there's actually no space in my field to feel fear. So anytime I'm feeling fear or anger or any sort of lower level emotion, if I can use gratitude as a bit of a pattern interrupt, and if I say to myself, okay, I'm feeling really stuck here right now, I'm feeling really anxious, or I'm feeling really crabby about something, I actually say to myself, okay, what can I be grateful for? What could make me grateful? What could I be grateful for right now? And this is a bit of a pattern interrupt, sort of shifts my perspective and allows me to see things in a different way. So that's really the power of gratitude. And on our planner, we're looking at gratitude in the morning. What am I grateful for as I start the day? And then last thing at night, what am I grateful in terms of what happened over the day? And by focusing on this gratitude and then physically writing it down, it's actually retraining our brain. I'm quite into neuroscience and quantum physics. You'll sort of see this as we go through this workshop. And we know when we start writing down things and really start, particularly pen to paper, and I really recommend with that day planner, print it out and actually put pen to paper. It's actually a very powerful tool for your brain. You actually bypass a lot of the conscious you know, blocks that you might have, and you can get into the subconscious through writing. So it's a very, very powerful thing to do. The other thing that is that you'll notice on the worksheet is today my frequency is. And you might be wondering, what am I talking about when I'm talking about frequency? You may well know, but just in case you don't, I just wanted to share with you that our energetic frequency, or our emotion, when I talk about frequency, I'm also talking about emotions, they guide everything. And there's scientific evidence to say that we are energetic beings, we are vibrating, and we vibrate at different levels depending on the emotion that we're feeling. And you may have come across this before, but I just wanted to share this with you now, just in case you haven't. There's a physician and a psychiatrist, a guy called Dr. David Hawkins, and he wrote a book called Power versus Force. And in that book, he created this chart of consciousness that you can see here in front of us. And this is from his work. What he did through kinesiology was that he measured the level of vibration of different emotions. And when I came across this, I just loved it, because it helped explain things for me and helped put things into a different perspective for me. And what he found was that those emotions vibrate at different levels, anywhere from 0 or 20, he found shame, through to 1,000. So we're talking about hertz per minute. And that's enlightenment. So Dr. Hawkins says, you know, enlightenment, we're talking about Jesus, Krishna, the Buddha, that kind of level. But he was saying that we go up and down this emotional scale. And when we're in fear, when we're in overwhelm, when we're in anxiety, you can see that they're at those lower levels. Shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear, all vibrate at their lower level vibrations. And what we know from a quantum physics perspective is that the observer affects the observed. So if I'm feeling fearful and then I go into my day feeling fearful, I'm going to see things, I'm going to draw in more evidence that demonstrates, or that helps reinforce that fear. But if I'm going to my day with a more grateful approach, if I'm more clear and grounded, if I feel I've had a little bit of time out for myself, I'm going to be in a more peaceful, more neutral space, and I'm going to be able to deal with things a little bit more differently. So Hawkins also talked about the fact that on this scale, he said there's two really key points: courage at 200 and love at 500. So 500, I mean, love is, we all love love, right? We all love the feeling of love. Nature is also vibrating or resonating at the level of 500. This is why we love to go and see a sunset, or we love to be by the beach, or walk in the mountains, or just to take something of nature in. We like to look at the sky because it's vibrating at that level, and that's where love is. So of course that's really where we're aiming to be. At times like this, that can be harder. So I really sort of say to people that I'm working with, I say, just focus on getting neutral, get to peace and calm. And when you're in that peaceful and calm space, you can then move higher up from there. But one of the things that David Hawkins talked about was that courage at 200 is a really pivotal point. And if you're watching and working with me on this workshop today, that tells me that you're definitely at that point of courage. You're really saying, right, I want to deal with this in a different way. I want to make the most of this time. And it's a really powerful point, because that's where action starts. And I'm really focused on helping people take action. So if you're here, it tells me you're ready to take action. You're ready to do things in a different way. So just wanted to share that with you. So on our daily planner, what that means is that we're wanting to be intentional about where our frequency is and where we would like it to be. And this comes down to a choice. And if we're doing our grounding work in the morning, if we are as grounded and as calm as we can possibly be, then our frequency is going to be in quite a good place to start the day. And we can then intentionally look to hold that frequency during the day. Because the things that I'm sharing with you today, I'm going to talk about the importance of this. There's a whole other piece around actually really maintaining your frequencies. It's one we can, and I've noticed myself in this time, I can pop in and out of it. And it's like we want to keep the radio dial tuned to peace and calm the whole time. And that's what we're focused on doing. So again, by writing that down on our planner, we're saying, okay, this is where my intention is for today. And you'll see in the top of the sheet, there's today I'm grateful for, and then you'll see at the bottom of the sheet, tonight I'm grateful for. So we're sort of checking in on our gratitude of both times of the day. You'll see at the bottom there, I talk about a water intake. You can, and I've created that just like a bullet journal. Every time you have a glass of water, you can fill that, just fill a little circle in. And that's really important. Our water intake is really important to keep ourselves hydrated, keep our brains operating really, really well. Neuroscientists say that we need to be taking in half a litre of water for every 15 kilograms or 30 pounds of body weight. So that's quite a bit of water every day. And that's why I've just sort of got a reminder there for our water intake, because it's so important for our brains. And then you'll see also there on the bottom right-hand side, the gratitude break. What's that all about, you might be saying? And you might be thinking, gosh, I'm talking a lot about gratitude. But gratitude is the really powerful thing we can do in terms of balancing back from fear. If we're feeling we're sort of, the boat's listing to one side in terms of feeling very, very fearful about things, gratitude is what we can do to sort of bring some balance back to the boat. Because as I said earlier, fear can't be in the same space with you as gratitude. So what I do, this is one of my really hot tips here, but what I do in terms of gratitude is that I literally grab my smartphone and I set an alarm every hour of the day, and then that goes off. And then I have just 30 seconds to a minute where I have a little gratitude break, where I just put my hand on my heart and I do a little heart coherence meditation where I put my hand on my heart, think about it's something or someone that I love unconditionally. And let's do this right now. So we just want to pause for a moment. Just put your hand on your heart, take a deep breath in just from your tummy and breathe out. And breathing in. And on your out breath, just bring to mind something or someone that you love unconditionally. And bring them to your heart. And feel that love in your heart. And as you feel that gratitude for that something or someone or circumstance, just take a minute to just think about perhaps other things that you can be grateful for in your life. The glass of water you might have to hand, the seat that you're sitting on. Just the simple things that you can be grateful for. And take a deep breath in and breathe out and you can open your eyes. So that's as simple as a gratitude break needs to be. But what I've found is that those little breaks make all the difference in terms of bringing me back into the now moment so I can deal with things more effectively, helping me really, I find it refreshing. And then when I do those breaks, whenever I go back to whatever it is that I have to do, if I'm doing something creative, I'm creating some content, or if I'm doing a project or working with someone, I'm much more energized, I'm much more enlivened. So that's a really powerful technique I'd love to share with you. It's made all the difference to me, and just a little reminder there. And every time you have a little gratitude break, you can just fill in one of those circles. So that's our planner there. So I guess I've worked through the first step of how to make the most of lockdowns, but having this really strong, solid routine that you work with every day. And ideally, that routine will help you come into a calm and peaceful space so that you're not feeling too overwhelmed and anxious. If you are, we'll come to the second part of the workshop where I'll talk a bit more about that. Once we're in this good space, then this is a time to really take the time in this time of lockdown to really, for us to think about what matters most to us. And I think many people I've spoken to, and you may probably well be doing this already, but you probably are pretty aware of your priorities now and perhaps see the difference in those compared to perhaps before all of this started. You may be incredibly in alignment and the priorities might not have changed, but I know for me, the health and well-being of myself and my family has always been number one. But I guess this has really put a big underline and an exclamation mark for me with that. But it's also, it's also shown me that the things that I've let go of, things like travel or going to see friends or family interstate or overseas, those things are not so important now. It's actually really, having, it's the basics, health and well-being, having a roof over our head, all of those sorts of things. Those are the things that matter most. So, but if you're feeling, if you've been quite in a space of busyness, and I know some people have been, it can be quite easy to skate over the top of some of this stuff. So taking even a couple of minutes to think about where and what's most important, it's a really valuable thing to do at this time. And linked to that is the next step, which is to think about what you really want. And this is the thing, I mean, this could some ways be seen as, you know, we've got this pause, we've got this stop sign happening. This could be a time when we could really think about what we truly want in our lives. I know some people perhaps might not have been enjoying their work, or might not have been enjoying, you know, going the 9 to 5. And this pause right now gives us a moment to think about, well, what do we really want, and what do we want in our future? What could we do differently? And how could we make that happen? And we do that through this curiosity and inspiration and creativity that I talked about. If you find that, though, very overwhelming, don't feel you've got to answer the big life purpose question now. This may not be the time for that. But to keep your vibe high and to make the most of this time, if you can carve out a little bit of time to do something fun, inspiring, or that you're curious about. You know, they talk about the breadcrumbs of inspiration, and Elizabeth Gilbert talks about this quite a bit. But it is very powerful to, if you can, carve out a little bit of time to do something that's just for fun. It helps alleviate the fear, but it also could give you some great clues about the things that you do want in your life, or things that you might like to do differently after all this is over. And again, if that feels a bit heavy duty, perhaps just do something you're curious about. Something, maybe look up, I don't know, family history, or something that maybe you've thought, oh, one day I'll do that. Well, maybe now's the time to do it. And also from the fun perspective, I also, you know, think back to things that I loved to do as a child, and that's why I chose this photograph of the little girl with the bubbles, because that was something that I loved to do, and it's just fun for the sake of fun. So this is something we can do in this time, and this is how we can make the most of it, and how we can raise our vibe. And that's our next step. How do we make the most of this time? It is by keeping our vibration high. So I've talked quite a bit about this already, but you know, my whole philosophy is that we can make this choice of a perspective. We can choose a different way, and that we do have access to a whole lot of inspiration and a whole lot more freedom than we give ourselves credit for. And the way that we start accessing all of that is by getting ourselves into a high vibrating place, where we're, remember the emotional scale, we're in that space of love or above, where we're really working with that. And we can do that in this time. We can have pockets of fun and pockets of joy that can really help us see different things about ourselves. And I think for me, this time is a time for us to see different things about ourselves. So I might just take a pause now, and I'd just like to see if you've got any questions. A segment around keeping your vibe high, but if you are experiencing overwhelm or anxiety in this time, you might be thinking, well, it's very hard to keep my vibe high when I'm feeling this way. So this is the next part of the workshop that I wanted to share with you, which is really how to keep your vibe high and manage your anxiety at this time. And what I'm going to share with you now is the process that I went through myself to deal with anxiety, and effectively how I set myself free from it. And really, it's like night and day the way I live my life now compared to when I had anxiety. My anxiety was keeping me very small, very contracted. I wasn't living my dreams. I wasn't wanting to put myself out there in any way, shape or form. I was kind of living this on the outside, my life looked fine, but on the inside, I was quite a mess, and I was making a mess of my personal relationships, and nothing was going the way that I wanted it to go. So I really had quite a deep experience of anxiety. So I wanted to share with you now the things that I found to be really, really important. The first one, interestingly, that I'm going to add to the list is I've just had a reminder from one of our participants to put this in, is that the key thing with anxiety, this is where I got my huge breakthrough, was to really acknowledge it and allow my anxiety to be there, or my overwhelm to be there. So even if you're not experiencing anxiety, you may be experiencing overwhelm or self-doubt. It's about allowing that to be there, and it's about really using the power of your breath to breathe into wherever it is in your body. And you'll find, I mean, it sounds paradoxical, but you'll find once you breathe into that space and that place of wherever it is. For me, it's in my tummy, and for many other people it is as well. When I breathe into that space and that place, it does start to dissipate. And really this is about what we resist persists. You know, there's that saying, what we resist persists. And when we resist, when we refuse to acknowledge the anxiety, or we just want to try and push it away, it's just going to come back at us even more. And again, it's that emotional, this is the quantum physics. What we focus on is what we get. So if I'm focused on, I don't want to have anxiety, I don't want to be fearful, I don't want to be overwhelmed, what happens is that we get more and more of that back, because our brains, when they're in that fight or flight, it's very hard for them to hear anything, but they can't hear the word not. So if I was to ask you right now, please do not think of pink elephants with lime green bows in their hair, in their ears. What are you thinking of? You're thinking of pink elephants with lime green bows in their hair. And this is the same thing with fear. If I say to myself, I don't want to be anxious, I don't want to be fearful, and try and push that away, what happens is it just comes back at me full force. So the first step here is to really breathe into where you're feeling your anxiety. Wherever it is in your body, acknowledge it, allow it to be there, and you'll feel that it dissipates. So that's the first step. Second step, and I guess part of that really is coming into the now moment. So we want to come into being here right now. And I know my history and the history of many people with anxiety and fear and overwhelm is that we're not in the present moment. We're thinking about the past, what might have happened. Maybe there was a trauma there, or maybe something that we did or didn't do, something we were regretful about. That's all in the past. We actually can't do anything about it. But when we're also feeling anxious, we can also be worrying about the future. And I was a major future catastrophizer, so I would worry about the future and worry about what might happen and so on and so forth. So for me, it was about, not spreading my energy out into those places, but actually bringing my energy back here into the now, into my body. And rather than being in my head, being physically in my body. And that's when people talk about being in the present moment, that's the power of it. Because when we're here in the present moment, we can get perspective. We do meditation, we breathe, we use breath work to get into the now. But when we get into the present moment, we can get that perspective. We can at least come to that point of responding rather than reacting. We can come to that point of calm. We can come to that point of peace. So, and then when we're peaceful, new ideas, new inspirations can come in. New possibilities open up. When we're in fear, we can't solve a problem. More fear won't solve any problems, but more peace, more calm allows, a blank canvas and allows new ideas to come in. So this is about really coming into the moment. So the key to this being in the moment is to do some breathing. I shared with you earlier the little heart coherence meditation. That's a really beautiful way to get into the now moment. But I've also got a couple of more meditations that I wanted to share with you that you'll be getting as a part of attending this workshop. And the first one is my choosing calm meditation. And this is one I've developed specifically for this time, specifically for this period that we're in with the coronavirus. And this is a 9-minute meditation. It's designed to help you really tap into your inner strength and your power. And because when we're fearful, when we're feeling overwhelmed, we can actually get quite lost in it all, and we can become self-doubting, and we can lose touch with our personal power. So this is quite a powerful meditation designed to bring you back in. You'll do the heart coherence, you'll come in, you'll feel your strength. And then also I've added into that meditation some loving kindness. So you can actually then, when you're feeling strong, you can start sending love out to your loved ones, to your community, to the planet, to all beings. And it's a really beautiful, just a 9-minute meditation done to music. You can listen to it any time of the night or day to choose that calm. It's about choosing calm and about choosing certainty and strength. I'm also going to share with you a very much shorter meditation that if you're in high anxiety, it will actually help you use the power of the breath. It's a guided meditation set to music, but I'm going to be sharing with you a particular breathing technique to really calm your system down. And that's something, if you're feeling like you're in a high panic and you need to get yourself down more quickly, it's a great tool to use. So there's a couple of those that you'll get as part of attending today. The next piece, again, is I'm back to gratitude. It's such a powerful, powerful piece, is to feel gratitude. And as I said earlier, fear, anxiety, frustration, anger, they can't exist in the same space. So this is when if you're feeling these emotions, if you can breathe into the moment, and if you're feeling a lot of energy in your body still, try focusing on something that you're grateful for or things that you're grateful for. And again, we're talking about simple things like, I'm grateful for the glass of water I have right now. I'm grateful for this seat I'm sitting in. These are very mindful practices to get yourself back into the here and now. Now, one of the things that I mentioned that I would offer as part of today's workshop is how to deal with sleeping if you're having trouble with sleeping at the moment. And I have been having some trouble again with sleeping. And, it's because there is a high level of energy around, and so our sleep can go, I find with me, my sleep can go out. So I wanted to share with you a couple of things that I do to help make myself get back to sleep at night. So often I'll wake up, at 1 or 2 in the morning, bing, I'm awake. So what do? I have a glass of water and, take a bathroom break. But if those things don't work, one of the things that I have found really useful is to do that heart coherence meditation again, and then to bring yourself, start listing in your mind all of the things you're grateful for. And you'll be amazed. It actually calms everything down, takes out all of the resistance, and actually you'll find you'll go to sleep. You actually won't remember when you go to sleep. That's quite a useful technique. The other technique that I'm finding really valuable at this time as well is it's a meditation. It's basically on the breath. So you're breathing in, I am love. So just try this with me now. Just put your hand on your tummy and your hand on your heart. Take a breath in. And breathe out all the way down to your feet. And breathing in again from your tummy. All the way out. And then as you're breathing in, on the next one, just breathe in, I am love. And then breathe out, I allow. So I am love on the in-breath. I allow on the out-breath. I am love. I allow. Just feel the feeling of those words in your body. And just as you come back to the space, just open your eyes for a moment and just feel the feeling in your body. And what we're doing there with that particular meditation is we're remembering that we're loved and that we're supported by love. We're also remembering at this time, we're allowing on the out-breath, so we're letting everything go. Because resistance is what creates insomnia. And resistance is what stops us from moving to where we want to go in our lives. So one of the secrets to life is really to drop all of our resistance and to become much more allowing and accepting. And that's quite counter to the modern day, to the mainstream approach. But if you work with that, and it's certainly something that I've worked with over quite a period of time now, and I've seen the power of it. When I'm more allowing, again, I'm letting all that static out of my energy field, and I'm coming back to the present moment. So that meditation I found really powerful. Again, because I'm allowing, I'm letting go of any resistance in my body. And the resistance in the body is, again, it can be around those regrets or the worries. When I'm allowing, I'm just letting things flow, and I find that I go to sleep very well there. So that's the power of gratitude. The other thing too, if you're feeling a lot of energy in your body, and I was asked this question today in the workshop, if you're feeling a lot of energy, like you don't know, you've got so much energy in your body, it could be energy of anger or frustration or upset. And I was experiencing some of this last week when my dad got sick again. I was feeling really highly energized and highly agitated. And sometimes what we have to do at that time is we need to physically get an outlet. So there's I'll just show it to you now, but it's a very simple, again, it's a form of, another form of using our body, a form of meditation. But it's like a shaking meditation where you're literally just feeling, so if you're feeling energy in your body, just starting to actually literally shake your body. And you can put on some quite powerful music and you can shake your body and just let it all go. And what we're doing here is we're really just letting go a lot of the energetics that are in our field. So we think a lot of things, but our body holds a lot of this energy as well. And what we're wanting to do is we're wanting to really just let go of a lot of this energy. Just let it go, let it dissipate. And as you're shaking, you might actually start feeling the energy, the anger, the frustration, or the fear somewhere. What you can do is actually feel that in your body, and you might actually then say, okay, I'm acknowledging it, but I'm going to pull this out of my body. You might physically want to pull it out of your body, and then you can diffuse it, in a flame. You can, imagine it that it's being burnt up like in a fire, whatever it is. But the whole idea is here is we're getting rid of this energy out of our body. And that's a really powerful technique if you are feeling highly agitated or highly concerned about something. So I just wanted to share that with you as well. The next step is very powerful, and I've spoken about this. I spoke about this at the beginning of the workshop. I'm now going to come back to this. So by now, we've acknowledged the fear. We're allowing it to be there. We've settled it down by doing the shaking, the meditation, the breathing techniques. Now we're in this space of calm, and this is the next step in terms of really setting yourself free. It's about what we can do here is about understanding when we're calm and peaceful, we're in a place where we can actually, our executive functions turn back on. The old part of our brain, which was sort of running the fight or flight thing, that has calmed down. We're in a place now where we can start thinking, our cognition is turning back on. So in this place, if we're really wanting to make the most of this lockdown and really wanting to change our experience of it, this is a place where we can start to understand that we can choose our perspective and the story that we're going to tell ourselves. So instead of jumping into the fear soup around us, and there'll be a lot of pressure to do it, social media, conversations that you have with friends and family, everyone has a view, and a lot of people are very concerned and fearful. But the problem is that fear that we're feeling is not going to get us anywhere. And if you've had any experience with anxiety or self-doubt or overwhelm, you would know that it doesn't really get you anywhere. But it can be hard to avoid in terms of what's going on right now. But what I wanted to share with you in this workshop is that you do really have a choice to choose a different story for yourself right now. And this is where, I guess I'll share the story that I'm sharing with for myself, or created for myself in this place, in this time right now. And the story that I have created is, and that I'm really focusing on, is that I'm calm and aligned and I'm centered in this time. There's no value in me becoming fearful or overwhelmed. It's not going to help me. It's not going to help my family. It's not going to help my community. I'm going to be in a better place if I'm calm and aligned and strong. So that's really my core story. I'm calm, I'm aligned, and I'm strong. And that's the perspective that I'm working on, and working to hold that story and that frequency. Now, I'm not getting it right 100% of the time at all. I'm having wobbles, but if I'm using the other techniques that I've shared with you, I can bring myself back up to a place of calmness much more quickly. And I can be forgiving of myself and say, okay, just fell off the wagon a little bit. Now I'm coming back to my story, where my perspective of feeling calm and aligned. So I just wanted to share this with you today. This is where you will get incredible breakthroughs, not only in this lockdown, but in life in general. If you can and perhaps you already get this entirely, but if you can really start living this and really holding the new perspective and story, and then holding your frequency. So again, these two things go hand in hand. It's about choosing your perspective, your story, and then holding a frequency that goes with that. And there are a range of frequencies that, when I talk about frequency, I mean emotions, but there's also, it's about, the frequencies around holding, it's about holding that feeling of peace, that feeling of calm, and trusting that things are going to be okay. There's a few different frequencies here that you're going to be working with. But the key frequency is to keep focusing back. For the purposes of today, our focus is really to just keep focused on feeling calm and aligned. And because when you're in that space, you can then move to other things. And when I talked at the beginning of the workshop about redefining our relationship with fear and redefining our relationship with our lives, this is where it's all at. we can do this now inside this very extreme circumstance of the lockdown, imagine what we can do when normal life resumes, when life resumes. It's never perhaps going to be the same as it was before, but when life resumes. So it's a very powerful opportunity that we've got for ourselves. And I know through this time, what I've been doing is I've been really consolidating this approach, consolidating this philosophy that I'm working with that really is, making a huge difference for me. And you might still be saying after all this, well, I'm not sure if I can do that. And I just wanted to share with you, again, we're back to the chart of consciousness, but I wanted to share with you someone who I admire greatly in our modern history, and that's Nelson Mandela. And he was someone who very much chose a different path when he left prison. And this quote I love of his: as I walked out the door toward the gate that would lead to my freedom, I knew if I didn't leave my bitterness and hatred behind, I'd still be in prison. And to me, there was a man who'd been in prison for 27 years. His people, many bad things had happened to him and his people, but he knew that if he didn't choose a new story, if he didn't take a different perspective, if he didn't hold that frequency long term, he would have just may as well have been back in that prison, because he was holding himself in an old story, in an old vibration. So that's when I think, oh, can I do this? I think if Nelson Mandela can do it after 27 years in prison, I could perhaps give this a bit of a go right now as well. So that's what I wanted to share with you tonight. And I guess my last question to you is, what do you choose? We have really, when it comes down to it, the way we live our lives, we can choose fear or we can choose love. And the way that our society is, we've been conditioned, is very much to live in that fear space. And what I'm sharing with you is an approach where you can choose to do things very differently. It might feel a little bit different to the rest of the crowd, but what I know to be true, and those people that work with me in this space, not what we know to be true, is that when you choose that different path, incredibly different things can open up and your entire life can change. So that's my question to you, is what do you choose? And know that you have got the power in every single moment to make that choice.